So I'm very excited to share this interview with you. This is an interview I've wanted to do for a long time, and it's with Pippa Moss. She's an acting coach, she's an actor, she does writing, she does so much, and she's so talented and interesting, and I learn a lot. She's got a lot of interesting insights and interesting knowledge to share, and I just had a really fun conversation with her, so I hope you enjoy. Hi, so today I'm joined with Pippa, and I'm very excited to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you.
And I wanted to ask you first about something that you actually mentioned off camera. So it makes it look like I've not done my research, but I promise I did. I wanted to ask you about the more acting jobs that are a bit different, because I know you did work as a living statue and you also worked at Bath Spa. So that's kind of more immersive, and also you have to be in character a lot of the time. So I was wondering how that's impacted acting when you've done other projects and what that experience was like.
Great. Amazing. Yeah, so for context, if anyone doesn't know what a living statue is, it's essentially one of those people that kind of like wears crusty clothes and paints themselves grey and pretends to be a statue. Sometimes they're called like human statues or whatever, but I did that for a little while whilst just before I went to drama school, actually, and then throughout drama school I did it to supplement my income, to earn more money, basically. Obviously, as most of you know, or not obviously, but as some of you may know, drama school is quite intense and long hours, and I couldn't really take a normal job for a while. And so I had always wanted to do it, and since I think it was like the summer before drama school, essentially, I was like, you know what, I'm actually going to do this. I'm actually going to create a character from scratch, and go out busking, because I thought it was a really good way to interact with people and kind of clown around. Really, that's how I kind of see it. It is clowning, true living statues, not the floating Yodas or the people like leaning back on, like, you know, those little things you see in Covent Garden, which are great in their own way, but I was really interested in the character of a living statue and how you can communicate and evoke emotion and connection with someone without saying a word. And I loved the magic of it. I was really quite obsessed with them from a young age, and I thought, you know, I'm going to do it. So I created some living statues, and then that was something I did for a while. I don't do it anymore, but I really love it, and I'm writing a play about it, and I think it's a really interesting art form that I've personally really enjoyed and learnt a lot from about acting. And then, yeah, coming back to Bath Spa, I worked with the Natural Theatre Company in Bath, who are an amazing company, and they kind of specialise in interactive theatre for events. And one of their kind of bread and butter incomes is through the Roman baths in Bath. And yeah, we had wigs, like authentic costumes, shoes, amazing props, and we would literally, I would be paid to sit in the baths, not in them, but by the side of them. You can't go in them anymore because it's like not very hygienic. And just pretend to be like a wealthy Roman all day. Literally, it was like the sweetest job ever, especially in the summer, maybe not in the winter, very cold. But it was just a really great opportunity to just hone your craft and stay in character and practice reacting in a character with people who are totally, either some people are a bit like, oh, what are you doing, that's a bit weird, but some people really buy into, but again, that's good practice, right? Being an actor,
Yeah.
people don't get it. Yeah, it was really good practice to interact with people and stay in character and bounce off of them and try and get jokes in. Like, it was very heavily comedy driven. Is that what I'm trying to say? It was all about comedy and making people laugh as well, so there was a lot of that. And it was, yeah, both of those jobs, I suppose. The Natural Theatre Company was a job, but the statue stuff I kind of did on my own, and I had some mentorship from a great guy in the industry who had plenty of years experience and big name in Covent Garden. Yeah, I've learned so much about acting through doing that. And I think I remember seeing East 15 actually do, I think they still encourage their students to go out and do like some live street theatre. And I know people can look down that sort of thing, but it's where theatre began, right? Touring companies used to, in a cart, take their plays to places and interact with the people. And it's really helped me find a good sense of community, I think, as well, outside of being a working actor and a jobbing actor. It's another thing that I really did enjoy, that helped me feel like, you know, I was giving back in a little way, and that I was part of something else. So did that even answer your question?
I think it did. I think that's really interesting. And I did a similar job. I was the sea witch at the Sea Life Centre. And I feel
Great.
like it's a lot of hot seating, a lot of
Yeah.
rejection, a lot of people swear at you and then walk out like, oh, this is, oh, and they walk out and you're like, great, thank you, bye.
Oh my gosh, I bet that was a bit, yeah, scary. People swearing. But I've had similar experience. But again, I think it teaches you how to handle yourself as a person and as an actor going up for stuff. You know, I think these are really, you might not want to do it forever, but these are great jobs to just dip your toe in and practice and hone your craft, which is what it's all about, I think. So yeah, well done you. Sea Witch.
Thank you. Yeah, it was an interesting one on
Yes.
my CV. And it's interesting to hear that there's a community aspect of it, because I never thought there'd be such a community behind living statue people.
Yeah. I mean, there's some definite competitiveness for sure, especially in Covent Garden. But no, it was really, really good. And like I said, I had a brilliant mentor who just kind of, I reached out to him and I was like, look, this is something I've always wanted to do. And I remember he replied to me, he's like, I get a lot of emails about like this from people, but actually yours stood out for whatever reason. I can't remember what now, but he gave me my first job working on the Olympics. I was a living statue doing some events for the torch passing ceremony with him, with his company, with his characters that he had created. And it was just like, yeah, I was just really, really lucky. And so I still keep in touch with him now, and he's still doing other things. And it's just, yeah, there's definitely a community aspect, which I think there is in the arts that sometimes is overlooked. And we think it's a real competitive thing. And yes, there's that element of it in there, but no, there was definitely a community. And I think that is reflective. Again, street theatre, it brings people together. It's about community. And I definitely experienced the positive of that for sure.
That's good. I want to ask you now about Shakespeare, because you do a lot of videos. You used to do a lot more videos about it. It used to be your main.
Well, there's a sister channel in the pipeline where
Yeah.
I'm going to move all of my Shakespeare content too. So
Ooh.
yeah, so keep an eye out. I am going to be doing a lot more lives again with the Shakespeare side of things. But anyway, carry on. You were saying.
I was just wondering how you first accessed Shakespeare and how you got your mindset you have now, because I feel like everyone has a moment where they're like, oh, I actually don't hate Shakespeare anymore.
I hope everyone has that moment for sure. But yeah, I mean, my first introduction to Shakespeare was English in secondary school. And my dad was really into poetry, and we used to live by a charity shop around the corner. And he actually bought me my first complete works, which I still have today. It was just like a penguin version. It wasn't like a great edition or anything like the Arden copy or whatnot. And I didn't really give two hoots about it. I'm not going to lie. Like in English, I was like, I don't really get it. I would draw moustaches on Samantha Bond's face, like on the front cover of Macbeth. Like I was like, I didn't really click with it. And it was only when I had a brilliant English teacher, and she was great, but I still wasn't really vibing. But she took us to see theatre a lot. And she actually took us to see Measure for Measure at the RSC in Stratford. And I remember I didn't really get it, but I do remember feeling something. And I was angry at Isabella's character and the choices she was making. I didn't get it, and it infuriated me a little bit. And then on top of that, my drama teacher actually took us to see an amateur dramatics version of Twelfth Night. And again, I just remember really resonating with Viola and being like, oh, I didn't get the language, but what I do encourage people to do is let it wash over you, because you will feel something, you will get something from, the physicalization or the vocality or like the staging or the lighting. Like there's going to be clues in the production that are going to help you get what the director and the character is saying and feeling and wanting you to experience, right? Does that make sense? Yeah. So I think, I saw both those productions where I fell in love with this female character who was a female protagonist as well. And then I absolutely hated this female protagonist in the other play. And so I remember thinking, okay, this is interesting. And then, yeah, I started to just really look into it when I started to apply to drama schools. And then I realized in doing it, it was actually really quite fun. And that the language was actually just very unusual. So rather than judging it and thinking, oh, this language is difficult, I don't get it, I started to see it as more of a challenge to be accepted and explored and played around with. So I think I just naturally had I said not naturally, but after seeing some and having a great English teacher who encouraged us to get it on its feet and everything and spoke very passionately about it, I realized that it didn't have to be this one set thing. doesn't have to be Shakespeare acting and that's what it is, which what everyone thinks it is and what it should be. It's that no. You don't change it, but you do shape it to fit you and your experiences and your life. Because at the end of the day, the people that were saying these lines, these characters that you're playing when you're playing Shakespeare, were just ordinary human beings. They might be kings or queens or villains or whatever, but they're people at the end of the day. And what I love about Shakespeare is that the language gives you so much to play with. And I think it really is, it's heightened, but it's extremely truthful. It's embedded with beautiful sounds that we can use to help express how we feel, which is something most of us barely do these days because we're on Zoom and we're on phones all the time. We forget how to express ourselves as authentically as we can with our bodies, with our voices. And that's what I think Shakespeare can help us discover, again, more of our authentic self.
How did doing the sonnets project, when you did a sonnet a day, change your thoughts on sonnets? And did it?
Yeah, it did, because I hadn't really looked at them properly before. You know, there's that famous one we all know, and that one that everyone says at a wedding that we've heard, like, but I'd never really thought about them that much because I thought, oh, well, I'm never gonna, it's poetry, you know, I'm never gonna perform that in a play or whatever.
Yeah.
I kind of was really more obsessed with the characters in the plays of Shakespeare. But what I learned, I guess, is that it is one long story broken up into 154 minute stories. And I just really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the arc. It helped me see that sometimes Shakespeare was on a high, sometimes he was on a low, if he's talking about himself and his true feelings, which, you know, we assume he was. You know, there's a real journey in there and an up and down and a conflict. And yeah, I think it just reminded me that within every big story, there are lots of little stories. And so just thinking of my old drama teacher again, he said there's no small parts, only small actors. This idea that, you know, when you get a script, you check how many lines you've got in the play.
Yeah.
You know, it all works as one kind of big picture. And I think, again, when you're an actor, sometimes we don't remember that. During COVID, we were thinking, oh God, what's going to happen with our industry? But actually, like, there's a much bigger picture going on. And I think that can really help you stay grounded in your acting and being a human being, which is very important, especially if you're going to be an actor. So yeah, I think I hadn't really thought about that, but you've helped me learn something there. This idea that, you know, amidst the big story, the big thing, there's always little moments that you can appreciate and explore within those.
I think that's very interesting. I did sonnet in a class once, and we did like a whole 5 weeks of looking at sonnets, and I think they're so interesting, and not many people act them that much.
No, and they're just lovely. And they're also well, some of them are really set. You go through, I think there's like a phase where like some of them are really similar. And then yeah, some of the way he just changes things up. I think it's just really, again, it makes me think, well, how, you know, in that moment of turmoil, he's expressing himself very differently than how he did when he was in that moment of ecstasy and pure passionate love. So what can I learn from that as an actor and a writer and as a creative and as a human being? What can I learn from that that's going to help me with my craft and my life? Yeah, they're really interesting. I do think everyone should dip into them or at least just read through them out loud. I'm very passionate about that. Lift them off the page, actually say them and see what you discover that way. For sure.
So are you doing a lot of writing as well then? Because you've mentioned you're writing a play.
Yeah. So I wrote a play back in the day. The year after I graduated drama school, I was going to take a play to Edinburgh Fringe, but I was in a rep season instead. Not luckily, it was, you know, good either way. But yeah, I did a rep season. So I handed the play off to some of my friends that did it. It was just a short, like, I think it was 25 minutes. But it was just a two-hander, and that was my first experience with writing. And I wasn't really sure if it was something for me, but I had a great mentor, again, who was like, oh, I think you've got it in you. Like, yeah, do it. I was like, okay, it's Fringe. Let's just see what happens. And I watched it back, and I have to say, I just loved. People always say I've heard lots of writers say things like, oh, it's my baby, I don't want to give it away or have it changed. Like, I'm picturing it but I actually loved like writing something and just giving it to like a director, these actors, and then seeing what they did with it. I think it was like actually a very thrilling moment in my creative journey, I suppose. And so, yeah, I've kind of always been writing since that point, but nothing's really come into fruition because luckily I've been doing other acting jobs and things. But yeah, I'm writing a play at the moment. I don't want to say too much what it's about, but it's kind of like a fuller story of a one-woman story that I'm telling as well. So it's set in bingo. And I used to be a bingo caller back in the day, so I'm kind of drawing on that experience, and especially my personal experience of my time for the 2 years I worked at this bingo club. And yeah, that's like the main thing in the pipeline at the moment. That's what I'm really trying to just get finished and sent off for Arts Council funding and whatnot.
That's so exciting, because I feel
Yeah,
like it's quite intimidating to get into writing as well. I feel like, would I have the potential to write like how normal people speak?
of course. Why wouldn't you? Of course you
I
can.
don't know.
And everyone's so different. The thing is to remember, like everyone is different. Like whatever you can imagine, like I guarantee there is someone who speaks like that or is like that, or who feels like that on the planet. So, and why can't their story be told? Like if you've got an idea, just write it, run with it. And that's what's so important about things like Fringe, Scratch Nights. Like it's a chance for you to just experiment. And see what happens, see what you discover. It's a, explorative process. There is no right or wrong. And it's good to get bad feedback and good feedback. Like it all helps. So
I've
yeah,
got
just go
plenty
for it.
of bad feedback. I think I applied for a professional thing when I was like 11 or 12. I wrote my little play and sent it in. And I don't think they realized I was like 11 or 12. I think there was probably like an 18-year-old limit. So, and they gave me feedback and they were like,
Brutal.
scene 5 was plain terrible. I don't think it meant for me to laugh out loud, but I did. And I was like, and I think that's put me off.
Oh my gosh, don't let that experience put you off. Come on, no, go for it. Just put pen to paper or type it out and see what happens. Just try it.
Good advice. I
Yeah,
wanted to ask you as well, you always have that book of sonnets, and I feel like you have a lot of books.
I
Well, you
do.
don't have it,
Yeah, I'm like, I don't have them here. Damn it. I normally keep it with me, but I don't have it today.
but I wanted to ask you about if you have any book recommendations for accessing Shakespeare acting. Do you have any?
Do you know what? I feel like it would be good, but I actually haven't read it yet. But there's a book called Shakespeare on Toast. I think Ben Crystal wrote it, and he's got a really great way about him explaining Shakespeare. But to be honest, no, the best way to access Shakespeare is to pick it up and say it for yourself. Hands down. You can read as much as you want about it, but it's like anything, right? You can get the theory down. I watched Oppenheimer lately. There's that idea of theory versus actually experimenting and trying it. Like you don't know until you act it, or take action. Okay, so no, I would say, I mean, I'm in the process of starting Shakespeare on Toast. And if it's good, I will second this and put a comment below this video and say, yes, read it, it's great. But the best thing you can do is pick up a play, pick up a sonnet, and just see how it feels to say it out loud and get it in you. That's the best way to access
I
Shakespeare.
think that's some good advice. I have a book as well. Maybe I should link it below, but it was recommended to me and it translates a lot of the words in all the sonnets. So it has all the sonnets and also a lot about each
Yeah.
sonnet.
Okay, good, good. One thing I would say about that is that is one person's idea of what
I
that
think so, yeah.
and I think, and I say this a lot on my channel, as I'm sure you've seen, but like it's about you. Like if I say to you love and you think of love as being red and you're picturing like these, emoji hearts, that's very different to what if I said love to my mum and my mum's thinking, oh, daffodils, because that's what your dad would always buy me. That like, and so therefore like you're thinking the same word, but it's a very
Yeah.
different image to you. So if you're just reading or taking what someone else is saying as it, this is why I don't really recommend reading like No Fear Shakespeare and all that. It's
Yeah.
useful, it can help for sure, but look up these words in a dictionary for yourself. Like decide what it looks like and feels like to you. That's what's going to make it come to life and make it resonate with you clearer so that you can perform it like lush.
I think so. I think you can just apply it to any context.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I performed one sonnet once and I was like, what if it's at the airport?
Brilliant.
And I was like, oh, that gives it a different vibe, but obviously it wouldn't have been back in the day.
Exactly. But why not pop it in there and see how that impacts how you would say it? I think having a clear idea of the context and yeah, the kind of attitude behind it. Have you just said it after, are you saying this after a long day waiting at the airport, flight's been cancelled twice, you don't know when you're getting home, you're going to say that sonnet very differently to your loved one or whatnot than you would if you are, you know, in the park with them holding hands on a day off. So yeah, all these things can definitely help. So do play around with that. I always encourage people to keep changing that sort of thing up. So yeah, good tip there. Good idea.
Thank you. And I wanted to ask you about working on your own acting. You've been watching your tapes, and I was just wondering what you are currently working on with your own acting, and if you have any advice for people.
Yeah, good question, actually. So yeah, so on my YouTube channel, I'm putting up my own self-tapes that I've done over the past like year and a half, and watching them, just for context, if someone's watching this, Lottie, and doesn't know, and kind of then playing them back and critiquing myself and giving myself feedback. And I think that has been a really, really useful thing to do, actually, because it's making me look at it with a different eye. Sometimes when we watch our own self-tapes back, we are like, what am I doing there? Oh my God, I'm such an idiot. That was such a stupid thing to, like, we can get really, but I'm trying to come at it from an acting coaching perspective and talk to myself like a student, right? And actually think, well, how can I move this forward? How can I learn from this to help me in my next self-tape? So I think that's something I'm working on, screen acting and self-taping, and making sure that everything is kind of thought through in more detail when I'm doing a self-tape audition, because they are, you know, very prominent in our industry now. We are often asked for self-tapes. But the other thing I think is just voice and grounding work. When I was at drama school, you know, the first 2 years of drama school, and I did a foundation before drama school as well, we're on the floor, we're doing yoga, we're resting our larynx, we're learning all about how to release and where we carry tension and all of that sort of thing. And I think with being a coach and doing other things with my life, like other habits are creeping in, and new things that I, you know, maybe haven't experienced before are impacting how I'm speaking, or, you know, I'm not articulating as well as I used to, and all that sort of thing. So I've been kind of working on that a little bit as well. I'm working on a Fringe show this week, so we're performing this week. We had opening night last night, which was great fun. But again, Fringe is quite fast paced. You know, you're not in the theatre doing a tech for a week. You're not rehearsing Monday to Friday, 9 till 6 or 7 every day, and then having time to go and work on the piece even more. Like, it was very quick, it's very rushed, there's lots to think about, it's very fast paced. So again, I've noticed this week how important it is to have all of that voice and physical connection, mind body connection stuff down, so that when shit does hit the fan, or you are in a higher staked stress situation, you can access that quickly. And I think this last couple weeks in particular has reminded me of that. So that's something I want to work on moving forward, really changing my warm-up to suit me now, not the Pippa that was at drama school doing it all the time. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, so that's something I'm just working on at the moment.
That's so interesting. And finally, do you have anything you want to say, anything you want to promote?
Yeah, I want to promote, like, well, first of all, one thing I do want to say, if anyone's watching this, Lottie's persistence and follow up and follow through of getting me on this. I've been really difficult, right, the last couple of months. I've had a lot on. Lottie has kept coming back and checking in and making sure, like, and checking when I can do this. And it's been really reassuring, actually, to see someone not just send an email checking in or asking a question and never following up with it. Follow up. Power is in the follow up. When you're approaching agents, when you're going to workshops, when you're going for drama school auditions, like, keep showing up. So that's the first thing I want to say. I want to kind of promote you and say, and encourage others to have that level of follow through, because I don't see it much anymore. And that's one reason, like, I'm doing this, because of you being like that. So well done. Round of applause to you. You're very welcome. Thank you. And yeah, I just want to kind of promote, I don't want to promote my channel or my work or anything. I want to promote you to just hone your craft, like, not just you, but your viewers. Like, I imagine the people that are watching this are genuinely interested in acting as a craft and your journey, right? Just keep showing up, keep working hard, find other creative ways to enjoy this. It can be stressful, it can be disheartening when you get a rejection, but just keep going and keep finding the fun in this industry and in acting, because that's why you started it in the first place, I'm sure. So yeah, just keep going. That's kind of all I want to add.
Thank you, and thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
You're very welcome. Not a problem at all.
So I'd like to say a final thank you to Pippa for doing this, because I had such a great chat. I learned a lot, so I hope that people watching did too. And I know that Pippa said that she wasn't going to promote any of her links, but I will link her channel, and just links to Pippa will be in the description, so make sure to go check that out because she's very talented and she's doing some very interesting things. And I find the videos that she does so helpful in understanding classical texts and in understanding acting. Like, I learned so much from her, so definitely go check it out. And thank you so much to everyone for watching, and I will see you in the next interview. Bye!